of movies.
What is going on, everyone? We are back with another In Search of Darkness horror movie review.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Depraved.
I'm Hellcat.
And together we are...
Hella Depraved.
Horror!
Alright.
So this is Fade to Black. And this is one of the movies we were actually going into it.
Excited about.
Super excited about, because we love this idea of like dressing up as your favorite movies to go on murder sprees.
It's a great premise, and the way that it was spoken about in the documentary, like I was excited.
Yes.
Which leads me to say that my actual score on this might be a bit biased because I feel let down. I do. I feel, slightly betrayed. Anyway. So.
Go ahead and hit him with the plot, baby.
The fun plot is that a bullied adult takes revenge on the people he thinks have wronged him by dressing up as his favorite film characters. Not horror film characters, which would have been
better.
Way more fun. And then basically does a, King Kong steals the girl and gets shot down from the tallest building.
Which is appropriate considering he's a movie buff.
Yes. Pretty much.
So.
Yeah. So that's the basics.
Okay. As far as the plot goes, here's what makes me mad. Okay. First off, I don't like that he's an overall film buff. And I only say that... I guess, okay, it's not even so much him being an overall film buff, but I feel like he doesn't focus on horror films as much as he should for this to be a horror film.
I mean, I guess that part doesn't necessarily bug me. What bothers me is he started off picking characters that concealed his face.
Oh.
And then progressed to characters that didn't cover his face. And I suppose it could be a symbol of his mental degradation at that point. He's just less and less focused on being concealed. But I was just like, why did we start with, like, Dracula? And then there weren't any, there was like one more horror, The Mummy.
The Mummy.
And the rest of it was just sort of, I don't know.
Well, technically he started off with himself by pushing his aunt, quote unquote, aunt.
His mother aunt.
Down the steps.
Right.
In her wheelchair.
That's also true.
And then he went on to do the things. Now, I will say the most ironic kill for me that I thought was fantastic was the kill that he had gotten on his boss.
Right.
Because he busts through the Halloween poster. And on the Halloween poster, it has that quote, "It's the night he came home."
Right.
And since he had been fired from that place, it's like it was his homecoming back to where he worked.
It was
so
that part was well done.
The irony was nice. Here's my other problem. They bill him as this like killer. And was he really for most of it?
I mean,
because
half of his kills
weren't his.
Yeah. But then the other half were.
Right. And I think that's what makes me the most mad of this movie. You could have gone one of two ways. And I honestly probably
I think it would have been funny if they were all accidental.
If he'd have killed everybody, then you've actually got somewhat of a crazy psycho killer person, right? But I would have, like you said, loved to have seen him always seem to fall short of being able to get that kill.
Right, and get frustrated over that.
And get really mad.
Right.
Which would have made it a comedic horror.
Right.
And I would have been there for it. I'd have been like, okay, I'm on board.
Right.
But, like, he has the kill where he dresses up as a gangster and shoots somebody that he actually gets the kill.
He actually does shove his mother on down the
He
stairs.
does shove his mother down the steps. And then the other kill that he does actually get is when he's dressed up as the Western gunslinger.
That was the shot on his... Yeah.
In the alleyway.
Okay. I know what you're talking. Yeah.
Fun fact: Mickey Rourke was billed to be in this movie. I never seen him. He was one of those two guys that got shot in the alleyway.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's why you couldn't really tell who it was because of the shadows and.
Right.
So that's a little bit of a bummer.
But yeah,
and then the other kills.
The boss has a heart attack.
The boss has a heart attack.
And the chick the hooker trips and skewers herself on
a fence
picket
post
fence.
or something like that. Yeah, it was disappointing.
It was, well, okay, my biggest plot hole problem is the involvement of the cops, period. So they had
that's a problem as well.
Sort of wish version of a profiler come to join them. And he takes a moment to, like, test. That's all you know, is that he gave them a test. Some of the workers of the boss who has died. Although it should be obvious that the boss died of a heart attack.
Right.
And the killer is one of the employees tested. He only tests 3 of them out of an entire warehouse. And then he tells the chief of police that he thinks that there's something wrong with the killer. And the chief of police says, I don't want your malarkey here. Go away. There is no other part of the movie that shows how the cops knew that there was a vampire or a mummy at the scene of the killings because the only witnesses were dead. That there was no fingerprint taking. There was no... Like, you don't know how the cops know it's him, period.
They just show up and they're like, yeah, we're going after him.
Yeah.
Other
than that quote-unquote test of 3 people, which absolutely would not have pinpointed. It's the weirdest...
Was this the movie I bought? No, it wasn't.
No.
It's the next one that I bought. We got lucky with the next one.
Plot hole type things that it was just... So it was frustrating.
There's another thing that frustrated us, too. Oh. What felt like thrown in plot twist of the aunt being actually his mom, but not wanting to claim him as her child because she wanted to go on and live to continue being famous without having the burden of being a parent.
Until she was like...
Until she was ready,
well,
basically.
No. Until the kid was like 4 or 5 years old, got sick, and she got in an accident that took her legs. And then she blamed him for losing her career anyway. But then she never told him that she was actually his true mother. And she was probably the only one in the entire film that I felt was a justified kill. Because she was a wicked stepmother type. She was awful.
Hers was justified, and I actually did justify, at least in traditional killer trope. I did justify the guys in the alleyway because they were the ones that were being absolute dicks to him at work.
Probably the boss, too.
The boss, I don't really understand, only because if you're not doing the job the way that you're supposed to, and depending on how long you go about...
the boss was wrong, either.
Right, and depending on how long you go about continuing to be a fuck-up at work...
Well, I mean, he lost, like, money, he took his time...
I'd have been pissed, too.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that he did that... the boss was justified in telling him to...
fuck off for it. Now he could have been nicer about it. He was not a good boss by any means.
But he was not a nice person in general. It's not like he was not... Like, he was that way with everyone. I mean, like...
And then the ending. The ending really made me mad. Because, like, you have him on top of this building, okay?
He's trying to overdose the chick that he's kidnapped so that her death mimics the true Marilyn Monroe, which I was like, yeah, that's real love. He's like, just keep taking these pills. I'll be right back. And goes off to...
But she ends up on the roof with him.
Right.
She doesn't die.
Well, because he shoves her behind the door and tells her to keep taking the pills.
Right. But we don't know if she ever dies.
We have no idea what happens to her.
After she's shoved behind the door?
Yeah, she's exited
gone.
Stage left, and that's it. She's not. We don't know if she's rescued. We don't know.
But every time he stands up on top of this roof, the police shoot him.
Again.
And again. And I'm thinking to myself at some point where I'm just like, guys, that's overkill. Like, you've now shot him 3 times.
Right.
And I think that's before he finally falls. And I'm like, after the first time, it connects.
Right.
You could have just walked your happy ass up there.
But that's the other thing. The cops, like, as soon as they shoot a person, would have swarmed up, and they never go upstairs, period.
I'm sorry, also. I'm sorry. This is the first movie I've ever seen in my life where the cops are that accurate from that distance.
Right.
With handguns.
Right. Well, look, there were a couple snipers.
And here's the thing.
It was still...
It's not like Empire State Building levels of height.
No,
it's like 2-3 stories.
Theater,
It's not huge, but still, like, I don't know how many times I've seen shootouts happen where you're 2 cars away from each other and nobody can hit anything in movies. Right. And then this is the one movie where every cop has been through sharpshooter training.
Right.
And is accurate as fuck with their shots.
Or
at least accurate enough to hit them. I won't say...
Right.
Now...
Yeah, I mean, it was just... There were so many plot holes.
And there were so many plot issues. Not even just holes, just issues. Like, somewhere along the way, they also, all of a sudden, turn him into a different person. He all of a sudden has a completely new personality.
Well, yeah, he takes on the personality of an actor.
Right.
In a movie. Like, an actual movie character. Which... is supposed to symbolize, like, his mental split. That is his... But on the other hand, like, there's not enough connection with him being that character to explain what just happened. All of a sudden, you're just like, okay, he changed his name on the mailbox and...
Unless... Do you remember what his name was?
Cody something.
Well, his actual name was Cody in the movie. Or Dennis. He eventually became Cody something.
Yeah.
Or no, Eric.
Jarrett. Cody Jarrett. So that's from White Heat, 1949, is what it says.
A sleazy filmmaker.
No, he dresses up as the gangster Cody Jarrett, which is also what he had changed everything to. From White Heat, 1949.
Okay.
Interesting.
I don't know. Shit's weird. Now to go on about the acting. To be honest, the acting was the high point of this movie.
Right.
Everybody did fine. Oh, by the way, the one person in this movie, we don't know if she died or not, because we don't know if she was the...
She wasn't.
Street worker. She wasn't.
She was not. No.
There was one person in this movie we wish would have died.
We expected it from
and did not.
She was, yeah.
And it was the main chick's
like best friend or
best friend.
Yeah.
We were hoping she was gonna die because she was an absolute twat. Like
from the get-go.
Her friend and this dude are actually getting along great, which is probably the best thing that's ever happened to this guy. To be fair.
Although you can tell that the main chick uses people for whatever they're gonna give her, so it's not gonna end well. But still.
Right. And every time he has a question or something, she replies. Not the main chick. The best friend replies with something extremely snobby, which led to the funniest part in the movie, where he's giving us a talk. He's like asking a quiz question, and the answer turns out to be the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Right.
And when the best friend gets all snotty, you see a quick flashback of her sitting, like a like scene transition. Of
the creature
diving out of the swamp and knocking somebody off of a boat.
Right.
And then it comes back to reality, and I was like, that's the funniest part of this whole movie. It was well timed.
Now, the filming was fantastic. Like, it was well filmed, and that's for the whole thing. The edits that they did like that, just his mental splits, it was all very well done. It's just for honestly, how slow-moving it was for the first half to 3/4.
Right.
There was a lot that they could have done in very small sections, like a couple minutes total, to explain the whole thing and fill in plot holes that would have made this whole thing 10 times better.
Right.
I mean, why introduce characters if you're never going to find out what happens to them? That is a pet peeve for a lot of people. So it's unfortunate.
Dennis Christopher plays
Eric.
Eric Binford. Tim Thomerson plays Dr. Jerry Moriarty. Gwen Guilford is Officer Ann Oceanbull.
Right.
Norman Burton is Marty Berger. Linda Carriage is Marilyn O'Connor, which is interesting that her name was actually Marilyn.
Right.
That threw us off too, because we thought he was just hallucinating that she was Marilyn Monroe.
He was, but
which
on
he was,
top of it, her name
but
was Marilyn.
her name was actually Marilyn. Morgan Paul is Gary Bailey. James Luisi is Captain L. And the rest of these people in terms of...
well, Eve
Brent Ash.
Aunt Stella Binford / mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mama Binford.
Yeah.
And then Mickey Rourke, who does show up, which it's a bummer you don't really tell. You can't tell
As
it's
Richie.
him.
Right.
Right. So yeah, he's one of the kids that were actually making fun of him early on.
I mean, I suppose that kind of makes sense.
Sure.
Anyway.
Really well acted though.
Well acted, well filmed.
As
set props.
Makeup. As far as the special effects go, special effects were mostly pretty nice. I did like a lot of the filming choices too. There's one scene where he's in the process of putting on his Dracula makeup, and he gets half of it done, and it's literally a split down the middle of his face. But you don't see that that's what he's doing, and then he turns his head. And as he turns his head, it's a 50-50 shot where the line's down his face, where half of it's Dracula, half of it's himself. And then he kind of looks in the camera a little bit.
And then continues turning his face.
And then, continues turning his face until it's just showing all of the Dracula side. At which point, the next time you see him after that scene, he is full-blown Dracula get-up.
And hunting.
hunting.
Yeah.
But yeah, there wasn't much special effects to really talk about in terms of a couple of the deaths, again, were very quick. Like the heart attack, you can't really, there's nothing there.
Right.
It's just a heart attack.
And again, with the cops knowing there was a mummy in the store, we don't know if he survived.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just know he had a heart attack and fade to black.
Right. But yeah, graphically, when they did have to do something, it looked fine. It wasn't over the top or outlandish or...
I mean, honestly, his transition makeup when he's dressing up, it was
very
superb.
Well done.
Yeah.
So that's going to bring us to our rating. I'm going to start the rating on this one. I feel like the movie had so much potential, but the story was an absolute letdown for me in every conceivable way.
It was kind of a shit show.
It didn't feel like it knew what identity it wanted to establish within itself.
Right.
It felt like sometimes it tried to be comedy, sometimes it tried to be more serious. And
right.
While it's possible to have movies that are like that in tone,
you really got to have a tight plot.
You got to have a tight plot that goes along with it, and if you don't have a tight plot, you're not going to be able to pull those two things together. I'm giving this movie a 2 out of 5. Two skulls, because I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to search for some shit tonight, but 2 out of 5 skulls.
Again, I would love to give this better. I really would, because this is one, watching the documentary, I was really excited to see. I'm gonna give this a 2.5. 2.5 skulls out of 5.
Sounds good. Somebody's gonna be mad about this. I'm like, it's such an amazing movie. You don't get it. And you're right. I don't.
I mean, the thing is I do get it, though. I do get it. I get where they were coming from, but they threw too many things together without keeping them concise, and they lost a lot of plot. They brought in the psychologist for honestly no reason other than doing coke and sleeping with the female cop.
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much, that was it. They lost the best friend somewhere. We don't know if the boss survived. We don't know how the cops found him. We don't know if Marilyn survives. There's just so many things that...
We don't know why the cops felt like they had to shoot him on 3 separate occasions. The first time would have been suffice enough to go up and get him.
Well, we don't know why the cops didn't go up and get him. I mean, it doesn't matter how many times they shot him. They should have been swarming the roof.
Also true.
It's just there's it was such a letdown because there were just so many things that needed to happen, and they gave all the right like little hints and foreshadows and this, that, and the other, and then it just like you're like yes, and then nothing happens, and you're like, okay, they derailed my train. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys, that is gonna do it. Our next review is for the next movie in line, which is Motel Hell. So be on the lookout for that to come in a couple of days. And yeah, this movie got pooped on, and we're not sorry. So with that being said, we love you guys. Thank you all for watching, and we will see you depraved people later.